Hey everybody, this is Ms. Ongson here, and I'm one of the 7th grade ELA teachers. So you might be in my class, you might be in another class, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just here to talk to everybody today about genre. So in your quick write on your last slide, you wrote about your favorite type of music. So when you go to Spotify, you could listen to music when you're working on something. How do you decide what kind of music you want to listen to? It might totally depend on what kind of mood you're in. I know that's how I am. Like if I'm happy, I want to listen to upbeat music. If I'm like stressed out, I want to listen to music that might relax me or calm me down a little bit. If you're working out, you might listen to like some hardcore rap music, whatever. Depending on what type of mood you're in, you could listen to different types of music. The same can go for movies. You might love a certain type of movie, and that's like your favorite all the time. Could be comedies, for example. Maybe you hate a certain category of movies, like maybe you hate horror movies, or it could also just depend on what kind of mood you're in. So you know yourself and the categories of movies or music that you like or that you don't like. So there's all types of music and movies out there, and it also can vary between person to person, what they like and what they don't like, and stuff like that. So all of these types that we're talking about, or categories, are called genres. So there's genres of literature too, just like there is of music and movies. So this means that there's many different categories or types or kinds or genres of literature, each with their own unique tone and style. So if you listen to the genre of country music, it sounds a lot different than the genre of rap music. Reading a suspense horror thriller book is going to have a much different tone and style than reading a silly comedy graphic novel. They're going to be different across the board. So, why are genres important? Now that we know what they are, and you might have some examples going on in your head right now, why is knowing about them important? So, pay special attention to this slide because this one is actually going to pop up on your quiz at the end of this little mini lesson unit that we're doing over the next couple days. So, genres are important because they provide the reader with expectations about the work. If I pick up a book and I can see that it's a nonfiction book, I should expect to read something that's true. If that's not what I'm in the mood for and I want just a fun story to get my mind off something, then I'm not going to want that book. So you're going to look for something more fiction, maybe a fantasy or a mystery novel or something. So genres are going to provide you, the reader, with expectations about what you're about to read. It also will allow you to make connections with others. If you like a certain genre of books and somebody else does too, then you have something in common. You could talk about it with them. It also will allow you to make the right choices for school projects. So, say you get to high school and you're writing a big research term paper, and your teacher says that you have to use 3 nonfiction books in your essay. You need to know what a nonfiction book is. You're not going to pick a historical fiction novel. Maybe it takes place in history, but if it's fiction, then you'll know that it's made up and it's fake. You're going to want to look for something nonfiction, which is real. So you have to be able to tell the difference when you're looking at a book to know that like which is the right choice to make for different projects. And then finally, it'll help you avoid getting books you won't enjoy. So if you know that you are not a sappy romance kind of person, when you look at a book, you don't want to accidentally check that one out of the library and then be stuck with it for a week and realize that you don't like it. So you're going to want to know when you go to the library to be able to pick out something that you know that you're going to enjoy. What sort of genre speak to you, which ones that you really like, that you vibe with, whatever. You want to know what types to check out that you'll like. All right, so next slide, and again, this is something that you want to pay attention to because you will have to write it down here in a little bit, is just the definition of genre. So if you want to even pause this video and go write it down now in your slideshow, that's fine. Or if you want to write it down in your notebook and then type it in your slides later, that would be another good idea. So this is just the simple dictionary definition of genre. A genre is a category of literature a way to organize and define various types of writing. So, all books where the characters are solving crimes or solving mysteries, they're going to fall in the genre of mystery novels. All books that have a love story in it could fall under the genre of romance. Anything that's a poem will fall under the genre of poetry, and now you know what to expect when you pick up that book. Anything that's true would be nonfiction. Another important example is the difference between a biography and an autobiography. Something that's an autobiography, the author wrote themselves. A biography, somebody else wrote about a person. So this is a way to define and organize those specific details into their own categories. All right, so real quick, we're just going to do a quick intro activity. So over the next couple minutes, I'm going to show some slides with different books on them. I will give you a few moments to look over the slide, but feel free to pause the video if you need more time to read the descriptions. So I have pictures of the front cover of a book and a back cover of a book. Just like what you would pick up if you went to the library and picked up a book, you look at the cover, you flip it over, you can read the back. And on the back of the book has a description or a synopsis or a summary of what the book's about. So on these slides, you'll see the front cover and the back cover. If you want to pause, if you need more time to read, that's fine. And then after each slide, you will take a guess about which genre or category of literature the book falls into. There will be a multiple choice question. The video will pause. You have to click the answer in order to, you have to make your best guess. You have to click an answer in order for the video to continue. So after you make that guess, when the video continues, I will go over the correct answer before showing you the next slide, so you'll know if you got it right or wrong. Alrighty, here is our first one. So we're going to try to guess this book's genre. All right, so this is Nancy Drew, The Secret of the Old Clock. And on the back, it says, Nancy Drew's keen mind is tested when she searches for a missing will. All right, so I'll give you a moment to look this over. And if you guessed mystery novel, you are correct. This is a mystery. It's talking about a secret. If we look, just looking at the artwork on the front cover, it's like this dark forest. It looks like something's very secretive, or maybe she's like looking inside of a clock, like she's looking for something that's hidden, or maybe like a secret message or a code or something. It's talking about her mind being tested. She's searching for something. So this definitely sounds like she has to be smart and figure out clues in order to find what she's looking for. So this one would be a mystery novel. All right, we'll go on to the next one. All right, Ender's Game. So you can go ahead and pause and read the back. Alrighty, if you guessed sci-fi or science fiction, you are correct. There was kind of a hint, if you read the back, a quote, it says, a major SF novel by any reasonable standard. So if you picked up on that meant sci-fi or science fiction, then good for you. But if not, that's totally fine. I was able to tell just by looking at the front cover. So when I look at the artwork on the front, it looks like they're in space. They're in some sort of machinery, spaceship, anything like that, in space, science-y, that sort of thing. It also talks about like an interstellar war against, I guess the difference, what makes it fiction, by looking at the cover, I could tell that it's science-y. By reading the back, it talks about an interstellar war against aliens, and so, we don't actually know for a fact if aliens exist or not. So, and nowhere in history has there really been an actual war against aliens in space. So I'm going to go with this is fiction. So yes, the answer is science fiction. All right, we'll move on to the next one here. Arusha and the End of Time. So it's a little blurry, but just do your best to read through it. So if you need to pause, go ahead. All right, if you guessed fantasy novel, that is correct. So she is talking here about like things in the museum that come to life, and a like she frees like almost like a genie from a lamp sort of thing. This type of stuff does not exist in real life. This is not realistic fiction. Um, and she has to like basically like save her family and her city. They journey through like the kingdom of death. Like these are things that are not realistic fiction. And so because it's somewhat magical, like, a genie in a lamp sort of thing, this is magic. She's awakening like ancient things. That's magical. Anything that is magical or not of this world can would be considered fantasy. So like magical type things, any book with that would be considered fantasy. Like giant talking animals, dragons, things like that, spells, flying, that's fantasy. Alrighty, here's our next one. So if you need to go ahead and pause to read, go ahead. All right, if you guessed nonfiction, that is correct. So, how we tell that this is nonfiction is by mostly reading the back. I mean, the front cover is illustrated. So, I chose this on purpose to maybe throw a curveball at you that just because the front cover is illustrated doesn't mean that it's fiction, just because it's not a real photograph. If we read the back, we're talking, it explains dates and things about history. It specifically talking about Shirley in the past tense, like that we know the fact that she really existed and she really did these things. It's saying she made history. There was this date of this happened, and she actually factually did these things. A fiction book will talk about things in the present tense. It's not going to talk about things in the past tense because it doesn't want us. They want you to read the story and live the story as you're reading it, not look back at it in past tense. So the fact that this is talking about this in past tense is like, okay, well, this is obviously, it already happened. I could fact check this on Google if I wanted to, but it's just giving you like a factual historical account of something that really happened. All right, we'll go on to the next one. All right, if you need to pause and read, go ahead. All right, if you guessed historical fiction, that is correct. So even just from looking at the front cover, it definitely looks historical. I mean, you don't see people, for the most part, walking around in our normal everyday worlds dressed like this. So this looks like things that people wore back in colonial times. And then if we read the back, it does actually talk about colonial times. It talks about like the Puritans that lived in the Northeast. She travels to America, to the colony of Connecticut. We don't have colonies anymore, we have states. So we can tell that this is past tense. It is fiction. Again, a difference between this one and the last one is it's talking about this more in present tense. It wants us to feel like we're in the story, like it's happening as we're reading, as opposed to a factual account. It's not talking about anything that really happened, there's no dates. It's just setting our story in a historical setting. All right, that's it. So if you want to go on to the next few slides, you've got some things to write down and then finish up the slideshow by tomorrow. All right, good luck, everybody. Make sure you email your teachers if you have any questions.